it's Danielle here from the Teaching Entrepreneur Association, and today I wanted to talk to you about learning difficulties and disabilities. But one small part of that is sometimes overlooked is how we find out that our students actually have a learning difficulty and disability. And to be fair to them, some students don't actually know that they've got perhaps dyslexia or something like that. So it can be quite difficult when you're teaching them and you think, well, actually, what's going on here? You know, how can I support this student? So one of the things that's really difficult is that if they don't tell you. Now, the reason that they don't tell you might be because they're embarrassed about it, because they think it's their own personal business, which of course it is, that they don't want to be seen as stupid in the class, that, you know, what other people will think of them. There's all these different, quite normal feelings that go through our minds. So what I'm thinking is, how do we actually find out about if somebody has got a learning difficulty or a disability? Sometimes it can be difficult. There's no two ways about it. Sometimes it's just difficult and they just don't tell us. But what I do is when I do an initial assessment at the beginning of a class, or the beginning of a course rather, I try and find out as much as I can about my students. And one of the questions that I always ask is there anything that I need to know about that I can help you with so that when you're learning in my class, I can give you the best possible experience? And I wear hearing aids. I'm partially deaf. So I often say to them, look, I'm partially deaf. I wear hearing aids. So I need to sit closer to the front of the class, or I need to be able to sit where I can hear and I can see so that I can lip read. So I try and share that with them as a way of saying, you know, I've got problems myself, so I understand, you know. Or if they don't want to write it down and tell me, perhaps come and talk to me after the class, and or during, you know, in the break or something like that, so that I get to know what it is. Because once I know what it is, or once I think I can help them, it makes life a lot easier when I'm trying to teach them. And trying to teach them, as I'm always banging on about, in the way that they learn best. So, I had a gentleman that came to a class. He was an elderly chap, and he was struggling to use a mouse. It was in an IT class, because as I said, when I started out my career, if you don't know, I started out teaching IT. And he struggled to hold the mouse and move it around. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll get one of those big mice. They're sort of the size of a tennis ball, with big buttons on them. And I thought, that'll make it much easier for him. So I arranged to get this mouse in. I was quite chuffed with myself. Thought, oh, good, I can help this student. Brought it in, and I said to him, look, I've got this for you. It'll make it so much easier. And he took one look at it and went, no, I'm not using that. And I'm like, oh, I thought this would really help you. The reason he didn't want to use it was because he felt that he was going to be on show. All the other students in the class could see that he was using this massive tennis ball mouse. And I should have thought of that. I should have actually thought of that and said, how can I help you? So I thought that he was probably having problems with his hands, which he was. He never said anything, but he didn't want any different treatment. He wanted just to struggle on, really. And what I'm trying to say to you is that just because you see something doesn't mean that they want the actual help. He's a lovely, lovely man, and he was really sweet about it all, but he just didn't want to be seen as being different and having this big tennis ball mouse. So what I would say to you is, ask them if there's anything you can do to help them. What can I do to help you? Because I've seen you're struggling with this, or are you struggling with that? Is there anything I can do? And sometimes you kind of have to take the bull by the horn and ask, but make sure when you do ask that you're not in the middle of a class, you're not with lots of people around you, perhaps it's just you and them, and you can say, you know, I really want to help you. If somebody does tell you what's wrong, don't automatically think you know how to help them best, because let's face it, they've lived with this difficulty or this disability all their lives, perhaps all their lives. So ask them, you live with it, they've lived with it, what can I do to help you with this? What is the best way for me to support you? So one of the things that I've got here is I've got some little overlays. These are little coloured overlays like this. You've probably seen them before. But if you haven't, they're really, really good for students who are dyslexic. Well, sorry, there's a van backing up. Anyway, these different colours, the different colours of these, you overlay them over text and it makes it clearer for some people with dyslexia to read. I had a chap who wouldn't read at all. And when I finally found out what the problem was, it turned out that he couldn't read because of dyslexia. And he actually chose the red one. And he came back after class and said he'd started to read a book, which was... So, yeah, I just share that with you. Another little story, if you like, is a student that I know of who was in a wheelchair. She came to class and the teacher always put her, as she sort of came in the door, right there. So it was easy access for her. And she'd been in this class for 6 months, maybe a bit longer. And she said to the teacher one day, she said, do you know what? I'd really like to sit over there. And the teacher sort of went, oh my goodness, of course, why not? You know, we're thinking we're doing the best for them by putting them there. But she said, you know, actually, that student should have the right to sit anywhere they like in the class, just like everybody else does. So from that day onwards, that student had as much freedom and choice, you know, within reason, to sit wherever they liked. And that, to me, is so important. You know, it's about finding out about the student and helping them. So in conclusion, what I would say to you is students won't always tell you whether they've got a learning difficulty or disability. But if you think that they have, try talking to them. Take the bull by the horns privately and talk to them. Secondly, ask them how you can help them, because as I say, they've lived with that learning difficulty or disability. Secondly, use the overlays. You can use big print like this, big print books. You can use different coloured paper, different tools. Again, by asking them, they may tell you what they need anyway. So I would do that. And also, don't think that you know what to do. Don't try and take over from what they're doing. You know, let them tell you. Here at T, we're always creating new how-to guides, new top tips, tutorials, checklists, worksheets, templates, and so much more. The reason we do this is to help you learn and progress further and to really nail what I've been talking about. Don't forget, click on the link below to receive yours and to take this topic to the next level. I hope that was useful to you, and I'll see you next time.